night just happened. We ended up with 2 sets of tires, 2 alignments, engine stalled, air conditioner broke down. And after almost a year of Fort Smith Harley, finally got the title to her bike. That girl lied to us, she's been sitting over there the whole time. She don't work there no more. So we had to pay sales tax, and then getting all her accessories put on her bike, and it all hit in the same week. Same as she's crying. It's sitting there like somebody shot him, crying on the floor. But it'll be all right. It'll feel better when it gets hurt. Yeah, we had just went on a motorcycle trip around Alabama, so I can't actually blame the daughter for this.
Who's making? What color? Her favorite color is purple. Purple and pink.
Yeah, I want to. Those are like almost $400. What do you think? She loves it when you pat her on the leg.
Good morning. Good to see everybody here this morning. We're glad that you're out. We are very fortunate today. Most of you are aware of the fact that we are a mission-minded congregation. We're involved in mission work all over the world. One of those mission works that we're involved in is India Missions, which was begun many years ago by Ron Clayton. His name just skipped my mind. I know Ron for 30 years. Today, Joe Evans, who works with that mission, is here with us. He will be presenting us a report during Bible class, and he will be preaching during our morning worship service. So rather than take up any more of his time, I'll turn the floor over to Joe.
Everybody hear me? It's been about a year since I've seen you guys. So good to see each one of you. Most of you know who I am, but if this is your first time, my name is Joe Evans. Diane, will you stand up? She hates this. It's my lovely wife, Diane. Just a refresher, just a little bit about me. I want to walk you through for a few minutes today what we've been doing the last year in India, just in broad strokes. But at any time you have questions, I'm standing up before you with no notes. So I want you to lead my thoughts of what I need to say, what I need to talk about. I'm going to talk about me and the team just a little bit in case you're new. I think this is my third time to be before you, and I have a tendency of thinking you guys remember everything I said last year, and I know that's not true. So I'm going to do just a little overview of me and the team and what we've been doing. And if you have any questions about anything that we do or anything that I've said that you want me to expound on, please feel free, because If you don't, the last 10 minutes of this class is going to be a little awkward. I'm going to start asking you questions, and you don't want that. So, and again, we can't thank you enough on behalf of India Missions for partnering with us, for being a part of us for so many years. I don't know how many years, Roger. Ron didn't tell me. I just know that you guys have been with us for a long, long time, and we cannot tell you thank you enough for working side by side with us. A little bit about me. I'm not a preacher. If you heard me preach the last 2 times, you realize that. I love to teach. I love history. I've been a small business owner in Northwest Arkansas. I'm from Boonville, of all places. Guys, I'm a Bearcat, just right down the road. And kind of grew up in Boonville. Went to a little country church called Washburn for many years, right outside of Greenwood, actually, if you're familiar with the Washburn area. And that's where I became familiar with, I was talking to Roger earlier, I know Randy English really well. So I know many of the works that you are supporting, and just thankful for a mission-minded heart that you guys so much have. And I love Randy, and I miss seeing him. I haven't seen him in 7 or 8 years. But I appreciate Ellen. She's not here today, right? I think she said she's going to be in Shreveport. But I was here last year, and I said, you know what? I think some of those pictures you have are as old as Ron. And so we tried to give her some new pictures and just appreciate her so much for fixing up the flyers and promoting us with that nice board back there. It's been an interesting year in India. It really has on a lot of different fronts. And I'll expound on that later on in class. But, you know, India is one of those countries. It's a third world country trying to be a second world, but not there yet. And so in these third world countries, you always are dealing a little bit with some persecution. But the government that's been in place in India for the last 15 years, they hate Christians. And it wasn't so bad when they first come into power. But now that they've been in power for about 15 years, we're feeling it in a lot of different areas. And I'll expand on that later. So it's been an interesting year, and I'm going to share a few things that some of our brethren are having to go through in India that they haven't experienced. Even though persecution is kind of always there, it's being ratcheted up lately, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. One of the first things I want to do is I want to show you, let's go to the next slide. I am bad. I have to start with this verse. I started with this verse last year. I'm really bad about getting up before you and saying, I did this, or I did that, or me and Diane did this, or our team did this. Guys, please understand from the get-go, it's not my work. It's not our work. It's God's work. We're just fellow workers. We were just the ones who initiated a prayer one day, right? God, give me an opportunity. Show me an open door, Apostle Paul would say, right? India is our open door. And we prayed and we said, man, God, please send us someone that will help send us. We'll do the work, and we just want you to know that that's where we start. That's our philosophy. Is we have to remind ourselves, because we're human, it's not our work, it's God's. We just walk through the door. You guys made the sacrifice to send us through, and we appreciate that. Let me show you the American team. Oh, well, I do this a lot. For those of you who is not into history like I am, India is now, has been for the last year, the most populated country on the planet. Did y'all know that? 1/5 of the world's population lives in India. So, when you guys see our newsletters, when you hear us talk about how many thousands of Bible studies we have every month, how many conversions we had through the end of the year, don't let that blow your mind. 1/5 of the world lives there, and they're pretty open-minded. I've said many times the easiest thing to do in India is to have a Bible study. It's a very, very religious people. And it's a people, there's a lot of them. A lot of them. Okay, let's. There's our American team this year. When Ron passed away a few years ago, that's when Diane and I came on the team full time. And I say that because for about 30 years, I had been going to India just on my vacation time. We would find a month here and there and go help Ron and the team. And so when he passed away, me and a guy named Steve Snyder, there's Steve and his wife, they're from West Virginia. He kind of like me. He was a preacher that went to India on the side when he could, when his congregation would let him. And so we're kind of the newer guys right after Ron passed away. And this year, there's a guy at the bottom, Jay Justice. Jay's from the congregation that we attend in Hot Springs. He retired from FedEx after about 40 years working at FedEx. He'd gone to Harding. He'd got his master's there at the Harding Graduate School. And he said, you know, when I retire, I'm going to go to China or somewhere in Asia. And I twisted his arm and got him on the team in India. So he kind of takes care of the schools there in India. Upper left hand is our director. That's Robert Hall. He's from Alabama. And just to the bottom is Burley Stinnett. He, along with Jay, came on board January this year. He's from just north of Dallas. So that makes up our team. Ben Renniger. I don't know if you know Ben Renniger, Roger, but he's been on the team for about 20 years. He's known Ron for a long time, and he's from Fayetteville, Tennessee. So there's 6 of us kind of working apart. And we all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. We complement each other very well. So when we go to India, we have different responsibilities. When we're here in the stateside, if we're not in India, for example, this year, we went for about 7.5 weeks from January to March. And about the middle of August, Diane and I will head back and we'll spend another 7 to 8 weeks. And guys, that's about all the time the government's going to allow us to stay in India for 1 year. So we try to get in this rhythm of every 6 months going to India. We can go up to 3 months, but if we get anywhere close to 3 months, government starts looking at us funny. And we're there on a tourist visa, and we can only do so much. So there's not a Westerner that's allowed, especially a missionary, that can stay in India longer than 3 months at a time. So just know. I want to give you a glimpse of Indians. Indians remind me of U.S. citizens back in the 1800s, early 1900s. They never smile for a picture. They just won't. You can try to make them. So we had to show you that they can. Go back. So we had to force them to smile. And we said, listen, we're going to show this to the Americans that yes, an Indian can smile in a photo. Okay, so that was just us being fun, and Jay's with them, and we got a picture with an Indian smiling. So that's kind of rare. So anyway, I just had to show you that. Okay. When we were over there, we've known this lady for a while, but when we were over there this year, we really got to know this lady. When I was here last, I spoke to you a lot about widows. Anybody remember? We really have been pouring a lot of time and resources into widows in the last couple years. I explained to you why. I wanted to share her story. Her name is Swarnalatha. Is that close? That's close. Swarnalatha. She's 38 years old. She's been widowed for about 10 years. She has one older son, I believe. And she lived in this neighborhood that there's a church just right down the street that she attends. And someone that worked at a hospital one time came up to her door, knocked on her door, and handed her a little baby. They knew that she was a Christian. They knew she wouldn't just throw the baby away or anything, that she would actually take care of it. And kind of word spread. And a couple of hospitals in the neighborhood learned that when there's a baby at the hospital that the parents just have discarded, give it to her. And she now has 12 that she's adopted. And she didn't mean to have that many. She meant to just kind of temporarily help. And the church that she attends have gotten involved, and they asked us, hey, can y'all help us? These children have nowhere to go. We don't know their names when they come to the door. And so just letting you know, as we invest time and energy into those widows, boy, we are coming across quite some stories. And just wanted to give you an example of what, because the widows have the least hope of anyone in India because of the tradition, because of a lot of things, the history. Widows were never supposed to survive after their husband died. That's not a Hindu thing. So it was only until the British got there and tried to get them out of this process called sutra that a good, faithful wife dies at the burial of her husband. So just know that India struggles what to do with the widows. And we work hard on getting them sewing machines, getting them vending businesses, getting them some way to earn a living. And as they do, as the churches help them, it creates this atmosphere that the community wonders, who does this? Who loves a widow like this? And it draws a lot of attention. It draws a lot of glory to the congregations that actually start loving and having compassion on the widows in India. And that's almost an unheard of story across India. But this widow found a niche. She said, here's what I can do. I live near some hospitals. I can take these kids in if y'all will help. So just know that we're helping her feed these 12. And we rented her a place a little bigger than she had. They have 3 bedrooms, not 1 now. Imagine raising 12 kids in 3 bedrooms. One of the things that we've done this past year, and again, as I ramble through, if anybody has any questions, let me know. But because it's summertime, and I think I read in the bulletin, you guys have a VBS coming up, right? July? Second week of July or so? Yeah, so you get it. I mean, and I guess somewhere during the days of Ron, when he was over there early, churches, they want to be like you. I mean, they didn't really understand what a VBS system is and why and all that. But as they get to know us Americans, they know, hey, the American churches, they have VBSs. Must be the thing to do. And so we got into this idea. We shared with a few churches, hey, if you want some help in getting material, getting teaching material, helping develop your VBS system, we will. So long story short is we help about 15,000 kids have the VBS in India now. I know that's a drop in the bucket in India, but that's a lot of kids. So just to let you know that one of the things that we do is help teach congregations, help mentor them, give them the resources to focus on specific groups, whether it's the youth, whether it's the widows, and have special time, special occasions. Make the children feel a part of the congregation. And so right now is their summer as well, usually May through July. It's too hot to do anything else in India. It gets April and it's about 120 degrees. And I mean Arkansas humidity type 120 degrees. So it shows you some of the youth group kind of getting around, spending time in prayer, doing things together. So we've been stressing that this year of how can we get more churches involved to invest in their children. We took an old school. We have, any particular year, we'll have anywhere from 3 to 5 schools that we invest in and set aside for different types of schools. Some schools are just for preachers. We just want to train preachers. Some schools, we have a school just for future elders. I think I've talked to you all about that a little bit. We've been investing a great deal of amount of money and time into, because so many congregations are immature in India, that we want to set a vision, set some goals of having elders in every congregation, in every village. And one of the schools that we had we just turned into a retreat center. And when it's not being used for a school, we'll gather a group of kids from all over India so that these kids start getting to know one another in a retreat type setting. So kind of like a Green Valley. Y'all go to Green Valley, right? Yeah. When I was a teenager at Heritage Edition in Moonville, we went the same year as you guys. And I remember, I think I had a counselor from Van Buren. But anyway, so here's some pictures of some of the youth things that are going on in the summer in India right now. A lot of people ask, what do you do, Diane, do when you get over there in India? My responsibility on the team, first and foremost, is to get funds, to get resources to India. And that's tricky with the government that's in place. You have to have these special FCRA bank accounts so the funds going from one nation to another is legal. And they make sure that you're not a terrorist organization or anything like that, or you're not buying votes. So there's a lot of hurdles that governments put in getting funds back and forth in the country. I think when Ron first started, he could, bring 2 or 3 people to India with him and pack their pockets with about 10 grand a piece and get into India. We can't do that anymore. So I'm kind of the finance guy, the CFO, when I'm not in India, I'm over here taking care of money transfers and resource transfers. But when I'm in India, we do a lot of teaching. And especially when Diane's with me, we'll go find a group, a kids class, and just get to know them. And when we're in India, the biggest thing I tell people is we're in the relationship business. You can't have a relationship with, and I think I've told you this before, we work with about 10,000 preachers every year. 10,000. And if that sounds, if you didn't hear me last year, we know of about 130,000 congregations throughout India. So guys, if you thought the Americas, North America, was a central place for Christianity today, you're wrong. I know Africa. I've got one of my good friends works in Mozambique. A lot of churches in Africa. I know Brian Davis at World Bible School. We talk regularly about how many congregations are in Africa. Guys, India, we don't even know how many, but I can tell you the names and addresses of about 130,000 because we have a database, and we communicate with members and preachers from those congregations every month. So one of the jobs that Diane and I have is we're kind of in charge of that database. Information comes in from congregations all over India every month. And there are places that don't see us very often in the 4 corners of India. So when we get there, we go to some places that hasn't seen an American in quite a while. And we develop relationships, especially with that preacher. And we try to figure out what are the strengths and weaknesses of these congregations. What do they need? Because in the end, we're in the resource business. Give you an example. Doesn't sound like a big deal here. If you need a Bible, if you have a child that needs a Bible, no big deal, right? We know where to go to get it. It's just a few bucks. No big deal. In India, it's about a week's wages. So how many Bibles would you have in your house? If you could barely put food on the table, you work for daily wages, you're not going to spend a week's wages getting a Bible. So we buy a lot of Bibles. And when we find a congregation that needs them, we hand them out. One of the things that Diane and I do is when we go to an area of India, India has 28 states, 4 territories, and we know where churches are in every single one of those states. We'll go to a place that no one's been to in a while, and we'll have a class like this. And we ask the preachers, well, what do you guys need? Some don't need Bibles. Some needs teaching material. So, Joe, do you have any teaching material? Now, remember, there's 36 official languages in India. So, depending on where you are, when we print material, it's got to be in that particular language. Imagine driving from Arkansas to Oklahoma, and now they speak a different language. That's what it's like for us in India. And so when we pack our cars up and go, we have to figure out what states are we going through, because we got Bibles and teaching material and however many languages that we're going to. So that's one of the things that we do when we get on the ground, is we visit these places. We call them KCMBI classes, and you guys would probably call it a, Roger, I don't know if they have this around here. Preachers used to get together on Saturday mornings and just have a preachers conference. I know they did in Tulsa when I lived in Tulsa. Different areas of Arkansas, I've known that, you know, the Churches of Christ, if you're a preacher, you probably got together with some of the sister congregations in your neighborhood with the preacher, and y'all just kind of talk and plot and plan or whatever. Well, this is kind of what we do in India. We can't go to everyone's home, but we can bring them to a centralized place. Imagine a county. What county is this? This is Crawford? I remember. It's been a while. Imagine all the preachers from Crawford County getting an invite once a month to show up and just communicate to us. What are the needs? What guys can you do, and where can we fill in the blanks? And we have this philosophy that we've adapted, at least since I've been on the team full time, because that's a dangerous question when you go to a third world country. What do you need? Well, you don't have enough money for what they need, for all they need. So you start having a relationship with them and find out, okay, what are they investing in? And so over the year, we have this policy. If they're investing in widows within their congregation, you know what we'll do? How can we help? What kind of skin in the game are you putting? And we'll match it. We'll find a way to help them do whatever they're doing. But if they're not investing in those needs, then we won't either. So that's just kind of, if that sounds harsh, we just have to do that. Because there's no other way to filter what they really need and what they don't, except to stand back, have a relationship good enough with the preacher that you know what they're trying to do. You know their goals this year. You know, our goal is we got 3 widows that are out on the street begging. And Joe, here's what we're doing, but that's all we can do. And that's where we come in. And we'll give that congregation and try to match whatever it is that they're doing when we can find occasion to. Okay, where am I at, Diane? Oh, one of the things, I said we're in the resource business. Preachers' wives especially, and widows. Man, if we find a congregation that the preacher's barely getting by and he just really needs some help, instead of giving them money, we'll go get a sewing machine. Brand new one. You can still buy an old Singer, ladies. I mean the paddle ones that my grandmother has in her barn somewhere. They still make those. And we'll buy them a Singer. And why that's important is these villages and places that they don't have electricity, so, and if they do, it's not on very much. But they can take that sewing machine and make just a little bit of money each day or each season, especially during wedding season. And that way they can help the family out a little bit. So sewing machines is one way that we help. Oh, let me tell you about this lady. This lady, Diane, I forgot her name. We found this congregation right down the road from the leprosy colony. Now, India is still one of those countries, and you'll hear in my lesson later an example of this. But if you're in a village or a city that someone gets sick or there's a plague, or you have leprosy, the police escort you to that edge of town, that little colony area, and they'll call it that. They'll just call it, that's the leprosy colony. And there may be other sicknesses or plagues around, and they'll have their own colony. And this congregation decided to meet not too far so they could do one thing. This lady in the center, she had a desire, she had a compassion that when those children of the leper couples, no one is allowed in or out of their areas that are healthy. You're encouraged to don't go in. But the kids go to a public school. And when those kids get out, this congregation, specifically this lady's take on the task of all the children that are a part of this leprosy colony, she invites to their house. And she has a big house, and it's just not too far from the church building. So if there's enough kids, they'll go down to the church building. And every day after school, she feeds them a hot meal, and she gives them tutoring lessons for an hour. And their parents aren't home because they're on the streets begging. And then at evening, night, they come back to the colonies. And that's where they live. So this congregation, there's the children there. She'll feed them some rice and dal. Dal is just gravy with whatever vegetable of the season kind of sprinkled in it. And that's what this congregation decided to do. Now, they were a congregation of about 20 when they started to do this. That congregation now is 120. Just because word got out in the community of how they loved those kids. And they wanted to be a part of a family that loved and had compassion like that. Because that's not normal in India. What's normal is they're in a colony over there by themselves for a reason. Leave them alone. And I just love how this congregation, not really knowing how to do it, whether they could afford to do it, they just did it. And we found out about it. And we matched their effort. So this is just another example of some things that we look for. We showed up at a congregation unannounced and handed out some Bibles. And sometimes the preachers would get mad because first thing I do is I'll say, who doesn't have a Bible? Now the preacher, he wants a new Bible. And he can't convince me that he doesn't have one. He's been preaching there for 5 years. And so we've learned really quickly, you better give that preacher a Bible. He's going to find a way to lose his old one. And I said, man, we Americans are just the opposite. I've got a Bible, Roger, that I've had, went to Oklahoma Christian, 1982, and I still have it. And I would be lost without it. I don't know where things are unless I just know where the page is. And Indians aren't that way. They want that brand new Bible. It's kind of a status for them. You hang out with me and Diane in India, and you go to an average congregation, and that's about what it's going to look like. They could meet out in the field. They could meet in the streets. You just kind of never know. You just kind of hope it doesn't rain. I want to show you that book there. We have a translation team. It took us years to put it together, but imagine being a preacher and the only thing that you have is your Bible. No concordance, no commentaries, no nothing. I mean, you've got the Bible and that's it. And I don't know about you guys, it's hard for me to put together a lesson without my concordance or my topical. So we took, not an exhaustive, but we took about 200 pages and made a topical Bible, and we put it in 6 languages. In hardback, it cost about 35 cents. We can get things published so cheaply in India. India is a country that publishes more pages in the English language than any country on the planet, more than the United States. And it's very cheap to publish things. So we have a translation team that we are finding things. We are constantly asking preachers, what do you need? What could you use? And we try to translate that during the year and put it in print and give it away. So I just wanted you to know that's a topical. And it's the first one they'd ever seen. Now, very few of our preachers know English well enough to study in English. I mean, you've probably heard Americans will Why don't y'all just take y'all stuff? Well, you can, but 9 out of 10 preachers can't read or can barely speak in English. And so we are always trying to put things in their language, and we put a lot of time and energy into our translation teams. We've got translation teams all over India. We pay them like $3 a day to translate. It's a decent wage over there. So every year we've got 4 or 5 things that we're trying to get that's new. But resource businesses, that's what we are. Is that my, oh my goodness. All right, I'm going to stop. Listen to your questions. I've been rambling enough. Yes, sir.
Concerning social issues, I know that Hindus and Muslims have shown violence towards each other, specifically Muslims taking the beat. They have, as being a minority, have Hindus attacked Christians in India?
Yes. Now let me put that in context. If you remember in the 1950s, when India became independent of Britain, one thing was supposed to happen. The Muslims were to go to East Pakistan and West Pakistan, which is today Pakistan and Bangladesh. That was what was supposed to happen. It didn't get done. Almost all of the Muslims got out of the country except the extremely wealthy who had downtown banks, businesses. The Muslims had always been the drivers of the economy. So they stayed. And there's this great resentment since the 50s that even though the Muslims have only 10% of the population, think of the attitude that the Germans had of the Jews in the 40s, 30s and 40s. Okay, all the Jews left that could, but the ones that stayed because they were owners of banks or factories or businesses, and they stayed. They didn't want to, but that's where their life was. Same thing in India with the Muslims. So the majority of the time, Muslims and Hindus get along until something political happens. Until something happens that the Muslims says it's politically advantageous to blame the Hindus. And then they'll go knock down a statue, and then they'll go and mark up a mosque. And so you have this back and forth. And so what you hear in the news is when there's a dust-up between Muslims and Hindus, usually you can just about bet every time it's time to vote. And there's a commotion going on. 90% of the time, there's nothing going on between them. Now, they're mutual because this government is very radical. They missed the good old days when the Hindus were 90% of the population, when they controlled everything. The Christians and Muslims are resented by the Hindus because even though they have the minority, they own half the wealth. So you wonder, well, why is the BJP government in India so upset at Christians? Because they are a fraction of the population that has half the wealth in that community. Christians have become wealthy. And I'm saying Christians in the broad sense. Catholics, whoever the Hindus call Christians, because Christians come in and do what they kind of always done is they bring their wealth. You know, when you make your living in America and spend it in India, you live like a king. And enough of that happens within the village that there becomes a resentment. Same thing with the Muslims. The Hindus have resented that the Muslims have just as much political power and wealth. So if there's a new restaurant open up in the village or the city, you know who's there? It's not Hindus. And it's a slap in the face of how wealthy some of the minorities have become. And what about us? And the Hindus are going, you know, we missed the good old days when there weren't any Christians, that the Muslims knew their place. You know, or the Muslims would operate this bank but live in Persia somewhere. And so we get a lot of that. Did that answer?
Yeah. One other question. What's this typical Indian consider someone wealthy?
Yeah. Okay. Let me give you the UN's definition, and then I can tell you what the common Hindu may think. The UN believes that if an Indian is making $5 a day, they're middle class. That's a weird term in India because there's never been a middle class. India is absolutely a caste system. I don't care what the UN says. They did not do away with the caste system. Everything in life revolves around the caste system. 90% of the population are either outcasts or live below that $5 a day threshold. The average that we see in where our churches are is about $3 a day is a good wage. So imagine early 1900s, late 1800s, if you're a daily wage person. I mean, if you didn't work that day, you didn't eat, okay? Most of the population that we work with is that class. They're the ones without hope. They're the ones that are looking. You know, there's a reason why widows and women are filled with our churches. You'd think we were all women sometimes. It's because they're the ones with the least amount of hope in India. They don't even make the $3 wage. The UN says 5. Those of us Americans who go there think that's a joke. It's probably really around $3. If you're making $5 to $10 a day, you're middle class, you're probably a school teacher. Okay? You probably work for the government or something. And if you're working much more than that, then you're working for someone in the West. You're working for Google or Microsoft. Have you noticed all the pharmacies, all the R&D and the corporate offices are in India? Guys, the Silicon Valley of the world is Hyderabad, India, 5 blocks from where our office is. And the reason our office is in high-tech city in Hyderabad is because we blend in. We get off the airplane, they think we work for Google or Microsoft. And they leave us alone. Good question. Anybody else? You guys just want to get out of here. All right. Thank you so much for your attention. You're free to move about.